Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ringside Review. I had to hit the record button there.
Oh, okay, it makes sense.
If you notice in the background, I am the new pay-per-view champion. Big hand for me. Big round of applause for me. Yes, let's keep it going.
One match.
Yes, it was.
It was very bad.
It was you picked Nakamura.
Nakamura.
And I picked Styles, and that's what did it.
Speaking of Nakamura,
we do have a special guest with us tonight. Let's introduce him, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from SmackDown Live, Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura, thank you.
Hey, Shinsuke. Nice to meet you.
Shinsuke, I noticed you're not wearing the WWE title. Oh, this is awkward. We're glad to have you here. Maybe we'll cheer you up a little bit. You acted a little frustrated right after. Well, I was gonna say right after the match, he looked frustrated.
Yeah.
Kind of gave AJ Styles a low blow there. Would you care to comment on that? No, he's just not in the talking mood today. But that's okay, Shinsuke. We're glad you're here. How about you help us out later with the Raw review? How does that sound? I think he's up for that.
Raw review.
I wore your shirt, so there.
It's gotta
there you
count
go.
something.
You know, I don't think that's. No, he still doesn't care. All right, so it's WrestleMania season for tonight, and then it's kind of like it's very much like the day after Christmas. It's like
24-hour period.
yeah, it's gonna take a while for the season to officially be over, and then WWE has it now to where they have the fan access, then they have the Hall of Fame, then they have NXT Takeover, then they have WrestleMania, and then they have the night after WrestleMania. So it's a 5-day WrestleMania event. Which you would think they wouldn't feel the need to put on a 7-hour show,
No,
having 5 days to fill. But
they did.
we're going to get into that. This is sort of our WrestleMania send-off tonight.
Yep.
Later tonight, we have a lot of things planned. We have the tweet spot, all of our favorite tweets for tonight. We will share with you. We're going to have Seth's Raw review, the fastest Raw review. He's going to recap 3 hours within 3 minutes.
Right.
Which is not an easy feat.
It is not.
But I do say, in case, and who could blame you, you don't want to watch 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, then Seth will recap it for you.
I'm a sadist. I like the pain.
Although tonight's Raw wasn't that bad. It had a lot of surprises and debuts and returns.
It's the Raw after WrestleMania. It's always got the best crowds. It's always.
Well, I strongly disagree. I think it's the worst crowd of the night, but the whole year.
The crowd doesn't give a shit.
They try to make it about themselves. They try to get themselves over.
But did you notice what was not in this year's? There was no beach ball.
Yeah, well, they've taken care of that, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
All right. So, and also tonight we're gonna crown. Very excited about this in honor of all the returns we had tonight. We're going to crown who's had the greatest return the night after WrestleMania in the history of the WWE of all times, brother. And what else? The tweet spot? No, we already talked about that. And of course, this day in wrestling history.
That's right.
And a very special birthday. No, actually not a very special birthday. Just a birthday. Sorry, Bianca.
Every birthday is a special birthday.
Every birthday is a special birthday.
Day.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about WrestleMania first.
Talk about it.
And then after we get done with that, we'll do the Raw recap. Should we just start from the bottom? Should we start from the pre-show?
Well, the funny thing is we didn't even watch the pre-show.
Yeah, we didn't. You watched Takeover.
I watched
the night before.
Yes, I did. I watched the Takeover.
I watched, like everyone else, bits and pieces of the Hall of Fame. I'm under the understanding that Mark Henry had the best speech.
Yes.
Which I'm not surprised. That guy's really good on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Probably really underrated on the mic because he's just known for being such a monster.
Monster, yes.
Uh,
He's a sensitive soul.
I
He
saw a
speaks
little
from the
bit of Goldberg's speech, but man,
Golly.
they need to keep those speeches to 15 minutes max. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't need.
It just kept going.
Yeah, they don't need to have. No, not everybody needs a half-hour speech.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and that goes with the people who are inducting. They don't. Look, whoever's inducting you, give them 5 minutes. Then you get like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yes.
To do your speech and then go on, because I mean seriously, it's too much.
If you saw the crowd, I don't know, because there was snapshots and everything with the crowd. There was like hardly anybody.
It's very sparse. It was very sparse.
Very sparse when Goldberg was doing his Hall of Fame speech. So it was bad.
I didn't catch any of the Kid Rock. I don't know how badly he was booed.
Oh, I heard he was booed.
He was
badly.
noticeably absent from WrestleMania.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure why that was exactly, other than the fact that maybe he just knew.
Yeah. I thought he was supposed to perform at WrestleMania.
And they never said that. I think that was what a lot of people were assuming.
Oh, we all did, especially.
I think people are hopeful that we were going to see the American Badass Undertaker again, and we'll get to that letdown in a minute. But let's talk about the pre-show a little bit.
Okay.
And just to get, we can't really review it. We can briefly touch on it.
Okay.
Matt Hardy wins the Andre the Giant Battle Royal
With the help of Woken Wyatt.
and that was funny because I saw the little highlight of that.
Yeah, I did.
And I saw that the crowd were confused because they thought Wyatt was in the match.
Yeah.
That was.
Wasn't in it.
They didn't do a very good job with that.
The lights come back on, and Bray Wyatt's there.
Yeah, they confused the audience there. That wasn't really planned out.
I did see the end of it. They showed on WWE YouTube. Your final four competitors. I mean, your three were Corbin Dallas. Why? Baron Corbin. Sorry, Fifth Element.
Corbin Dallas.
Yeah. Baron Corbin.
Super Green.
Yeah, Super Green. What's his name? Oh God.
It doesn't matter. We're moving on.
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay. The tournament for the vacated Cruiserweight Championship was won by Cedric Alexander.
Yes.
I
heard the match was very mediocre. It didn't even last that long.
If it didn't last that long, it would probably end up being one of my favorite matches because just everything was just way too long. It was 12 minutes 20 seconds for those of you keeping score at home. They've been building up Cedric Alexander for, gosh, it seems like 2 years now. He's been the heir apparent. They just never really got to him.
Because Neville was champion.
Well, no, they were setting him up, and then he became number one contender, and then someone else dropped out, and then he was going to face Enzo for the title, and then Enzo gets fired. So, yeah, he's been the heir apparent for a long time. You made a good point last week. Mustafa Ali being champion going into Saudi Arabia. Here's my theory. I think they're going to do a rematch in Saudi Arabia, and then that's when he's going to win the title, probably.
They've already done the card for the greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view, whatever they're calling it over there. All titles are being defended.
I have to keep correcting you. The women's titles are being defended because it's Saudi Arabia. They don't exactly have equal rights over there.
No, they don't.
All right, Naomi wins the Andrea Battle Royal.
Okay, that's what we're calling it.
Because you can't call it what it used to be called.
No, you cannot call her.
No, I wasn't too surprised by this. This is we did both pick Becky Lynch, but Naomi was pretty good call too. Mm-hmm. Moving on from that, Seth Rollins, The Miz, and Finn Balor all competed for the Intercontinental. For what seems like to be the staple of WWE, the Intercontinental Championship match opened up the show, which isn't that much big of a deal, aside from the fact that it was a much better match than most of the other matches on the card, and we really shouldn't be surprised by this. Given who is in the match, your thoughts on this match?
It was a great start. It was a great match, like you said. You had three stellar competitors. competitors. You had Finn Balor, you had The Miz, you had Seth Rollins. All the elements were there. They never skipped a beat. There was always high spots and just one combination after another, one spot after another. I like this match. It's probably one of the better matches of tonight. And of course, as we all
Of
know,
tonight?
I'm sorry, WrestleMania of last night. And of course, the winner of it, we have a new IC champion. Seth Rollins wins. I liked it. What about you?
It's one of those things where nobody picked Seth Rollins to win, but like halfway through the match, you kind of realized
Yeah.
it was going to go to Seth.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't pick Seth is because I thought they were going to set him up to do something with Roman, like a story with Roman coming up. And that's apparently not going to happen. But I did call it halfway through.
Yes, you did.
That Samoa Joe was going to be Roman Reigns' next opponent.
Yes.
And that is apparently spoiler for your Raw review later on. But that's apparently what's going to happen. This was a pretty good match. It was a great match to get things started, you know.
It was fast, it was fluid, and it was quick, and it was done.
It was kind of a shame because all three of those guys could main event WrestleMania and probably would put on a better show than the two guys who did main event. So I remember watching the match just going, these guys are being wasted in the opening match.
All of them are, yeah.
I was not a big fan of Finn Balor's entrance. You know, if he wants to be, I'm full of hate. Here's the thing that's really weird. Not that straight people can't be the champion of homosexuals, but I don't think Finn's gay. I don't think he is. He's never came out and said he was. He's been linked to women that have worked, you know, in wrestling. It's just kind of strange that he's been the champion of the cause. And that's, you know, I mean, if he's got a relative that, you know, or somebody that's close to him, but that's fine. But it's just kind of strange that it's not it's not like
Darren Young?
Darren Young or Velveteen Dream or somebody who I don't think Velveteen's really.
I don't think
He's playing a character.
Yeah.
Of course, we had heard before rumors that Stephanie wanted Finn's character to be gay, and Triple H said no to that. I wasn't a fan of look, it was just Finn came out, and then a bunch of people started clapping behind him. It was just such a weak entrance.
It was.
I'm not a fan. I am a fan of somebody going out there and how can I finish a sentence? God damn it. Anyway, go ahead, Seth.
I'm waiting for you.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
WrestleMania, Finn Balor, why didn't he show up as the demon?
Well, they didn't set it up as the demon.
Or set it up, or maybe something in gold or a different color.
No,
or something, you know, just something.
A rainbow demon. That's what he should have been.
Got the rainbow demon, and you've probably seen the memes and everything. So it's like demon behind him, like no rainbow. He's very nervous. It was a waste, but I did like the 3D animation that they did for the Miz. That was good. I did like that. With the whole marquee.
Yeah, I don't know. It's getting back to Finn Balor. See, I've forgotten the original thought I had. Anyway, I'm not really a big fan of it. The whole rainbow thing. I mean, what else? Okay, now I remember what I was trying to say. I'm a fan of somebody trying to say, you know, we're all accepted and nobody should really feel bad about the things that they naturally feel, and that's all great. But just I don't know. It's like this is his whole gimmick now, and I'm like, ugh, this is not. It's like Finn, you should be the demon. You know, it's just. You know what? Give this gimmick to somebody who doesn't have anything. You know what I mean? Give this gimmick to, you know, I don't know, Apollo Crews or somebody. They like bright colors. Give it to them. He doesn't have to say he's gay. Just say he's you know, he's standing up for their rights. There, that's fine.
There you go. Fine next.
So congratulations, Seth Rollins. That's like the last title he hadn't won. He's won now. He's another Grand Slam champion.
Yep.
In fact, I think all the members of the Shield are Grand Slam champions now.
Tonight on Raw.
They should all go out to Denny's and have Grand Slam breakfasts to celebrate. I think so. Charlotte Flair and Asuka. This
Wow.
was a shock.
This was a shock, and
I don't.
I know you don't like women's matches. I know you don't.
I never said that.
Well, you
I
said
just said they're
it's
really boring. No, I'm just
boring.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
But
Kind of.
they put on a wonderful match. These two.
No, I have no problem with women's matches. In fact, NXT Takeover Philadelphia, my favorite match, despite what a lot of people said about Aleister Black and who was it that he faced that night? Adam Cole. They love that match, and then the main event. But my favorite match that night was Ember Moon and whoever that MMA, the MMA wrestler that she fought that.
The Queen of Spades. I know you're.
Whatever. Yeah. That was my favorite match that night. That was such a good story told, and it looked real, and that's always nice when it looks real.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, this was a great match. But we were shocked. We were all shocked by the ending. I honestly think, and I'm no booker here, but I think a lot of people would agree with me that, you eventually build up Ronda versus Asuka, have Ronda at some point win the title, and then title versus streak. Ronda, it's like something's got to give. These are the two most dominant women in wrestling, It's a little bit of a head scratcher because you don't know where they're going to go from here. It's a real credit to Charlotte.
Yeah,
she put on a good show.
She did a great job. And from what I hear, that it was on the dirt sheets. It's been on the Wrestling Observer, stuff like that. About they've been wanting to push Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey and headlining it for WrestleMania next year.
Oh bullshit! That's not headlining WrestleMania.
That's been going around. I don't know if it's true or not. I would like to see that match, but it would have made more sense with Asuka.
Did Ronda Rousey ever even headline a UFC pay-per-view?
Yes.
Did she?
Anytime she defended her title or she was up for the title. Yes.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I'm just saying.
I bet you your hat that it's not going to happen.
I know. I like my Dean Ambrose hat.
Charlotte made Asuka tap out.
Yep.
It was a good match. It was a lot shorter than the night. I remember it was 13 minutes 5 seconds. A lot shorter. I remember. Following that, we had the U.S. title match, which was this was kind of one of those blatant. We're trying to get as many guys on the show as possible. You had Bobby Roode.
That's right.
Bobby Roode. Versus Randy Orton versus Jinder Bender Mahal versus Rusev Day.
Randy Orton looked like he did not care when he went down to the ring. Like he knew he was going to lose.
Well, no, he just looked like Randy Orton. I don't know if you've ever seen Randy Orton before, but that's just how he looks. It's not.
It looks like he just didn't care. There was no entrance, nothing like that. I watched the footage again. It's just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm being here because I have to be here.
Kind of felt bad for Bobby Roode because he's such a good wrestler.
He is.
He deserves better than just to be one of the guys in a multi-man match. Jinder is our new champion.
Yep. Man, and Rusev is
it's just like a traditional thing with WWE. You have the evil foreign heel as the champion.
With the U.S. title.
Yeah. And I was thinking, well, that's why Rusev couldn't win it, because he's too over. Mm-hmm. You need to have a bad guy win it. I really did enjoy Aiden English's tights. His whole gimmick he's got on now. He's kind of weird. He's kind of in flux because he's no longer the crying actor anymore.
Yeah.
He's the lackey now. I don't know which is better, to be honest with you.
Oh Lord, I don't miss him as a vaudevillain. I don't.
The vaudevillains, that was one of those gimmicks that would only work in NXT.
Yeah.
I think it worked in NXT, but I don't. In WWE, it was like Adam Rose. It just wouldn't. They don't know what to do with it. Yeah, he debuted tonight.
Too. I'll tell you that later on.
We'll get into that later.
Next match.
Let's see. What else do we... Oh, so, Jinder won. That should be interesting, and it's pretty much guarantees him if I can if I can use that word guarantee, that he's going to stay on SmackDown unless they decide to swap U.S. and Intercontinental Championships, which they could do because honestly, I could see Seth going to SmackDown easily.
Yeah.
Next up, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. The biggest shock was that this match happened so early in the show. I was surprised that Triple H would go on so early, especially this being such a high-profile match with Ronda being in it. Ronda did pretty good.
She did.
For all the pressure that was on her, she rose to the occasion.
You saw it in her eyes when she was.
And are you talking about the red eyeliner?
Yes, with the red eyeliner.
Okay.
Yeah. But when she was just looking at the crowd, it's like, oh my God. And you've got like 70 something thousand people chanting your name, Ronda, in unison. I mean, she soaked up the moment, went in. She did a great job.
Like a diaper.
Yes.
She soaked up the moment.
That's right. She did a great job. There was no faults. She did everything right.
Except for that really ugly throw, which we've talked about. That weird suplex she does that's just...
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, other than that, it was...
Kurt Angle looked a little rough around the edges. That was the saddest thing.
Kurt Angle, he's too stiff when he fights.
That was sadder than Triple H bouncing his pecs and it just getting too wobbly.
Oh, his deflated pec. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's just... I remember I was watching that match and I just kept thinking, man, time is such a bitch.
Yeah, no, you did say
gosh,
that.
Just getting old just sucks, man. I mean, seriously, you look at Kurt Angle and Triple H, two guys that have just always been in like peak physical condition, and it's like they were just showing signs of that they were in their 40s, and that was just such disappointing.
Bad.
But I mean, granted, they look great for being 50 or close to it, but still, time is just a cruel thing.
Oh, she can be.
Yeah, but so anyway,
who went over?
Well, you know who's going over.
Of course,
to quote Charlie Haas when he was talking to me in the ring. I'll never forget that day. Anyway, remember, if we get over 1,000 likes, I'll share that story. No, of course, you know who went over. It's Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. And this is what I told you. I still can't believe you picked. Well, who did you pick?
For what?
You picked Ronda Rousey?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting the other one you picked.
Yeah.
Against Daniel Bryan, which was ridiculous. Anyway, so
would have been better for storyline.
Great match. Didn't need to go 20 minutes. This would have been better at like 12 to 15 minutes. But it's a Triple H match, so he has to have long matches, apparently.
That's what I'm saying. The majority of the match, the ring time was between Kurt Angle and Triple H. And then the high spots, and then, of course, the finisher was Ronda Rousey and Stephanie.
It was the longest match of the night. And it was around this time that we started feeling a little fatigued.
Yes. The first hour of WrestleMania was great.
The WrestleMania, it's just, look, WWE, if I can plead with you just for a moment. If it's just me and you, WWE. We appreciate all the effort you go in. To making, can I just start again?
Start again. Sorry about that.
WWE, if I can just say that we really appreciate all the effort you put into WrestleMania, putting on the best show possible and sparing no expense. Here's the deal. It doesn't need to be 7 hours. In fact, it shouldn't be 7 hours. We were so exhausted halfway through the show that honestly, by the time we got to Nakamura versus Styles, the dream match we've been waiting for a year now, at least a year, we were so tired we didn't care. What does that mean? What does that say? What does that say about the way you've been booking things? We didn't care about the match we had been waiting for a year now. Because WrestleMania is too damn long. I don't know. Here's the thing. we live in Waco, Texas. We are broadcast in an undisclosed location somewhere in the greater Waco area. New Orleans is 6-8 hour drive, something like that. It's not unreasonable to drive to New Orleans. Year before that, where was WrestleMania? It was Orlando. Okay, that's a little out. That's a little out of the way. Yeah, I'd say more. Well, are you really 12 hours to Orlando driving?
Yep.
Flying there's not a big. Okay, so it's. I doubt it's 12 hours. No, it's got to be more. It's got to be more. Bullshit. It's not. Look, I'm gonna look it up on my phone later. Anyway, year before that, Dallas. That's just up the road from us. Yeah. It's hour 45 minutes away. And then a couple of years before that, New Orleans again, because we could have went. We could have went to these WrestleManias. The only thing that really held us back, we didn't want to sit through 7 hours of a show. Actually, I take that back. The thing that held us back from the previous New Orleans and Dallas WrestleManias were the main event scheduled. It was the Batista versus Randy Orton, and then what was it for Dallas? Oh, Roman Reigns versus Triple H. But this year we didn't go, mainly because we had heard the horror stories of the people in Orlando that had to sit through 6-7 hours, and that just sounded like. Could you imagine next year WrestleMania in New Jersey? I don't care if you keep calling it New York, New Jersey. It's New Jersey. Stop it. In New Jersey, in the freezing, because it's going to be cold.
It is going to be cold.
And early April in New Jersey is cold, and they could get lucky. They could see a little bit of spring weather. Who knows?
Right. This is Jersey.
But this is they were the MetLife Stadium was frosted over the same weekend that they had WrestleMania this year. So it goes to reason it's going to be cool. Could you imagine sitting there freezing cold for 7 hours for WrestleMania?
If I make a quick point, what I don't get is that we've been to a WrestleMania before in Houston. Probably one of the greatest WrestleManias they ever did. And it wasn't even near that long. It was maybe, 4 hours perhaps, right? Like it was 1 day access because it was before the 3 day and all this stuff. And then it was we were there for for maybe 3 or 4, 3 hours, I would say.
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to squeeze out as much as possible, and it's just it's like we're gonna get people their money's worth. It's like no, stop it. Just, we don't need that many matches. I'll make a compromise with you. You just have the same amount of matches. Just don't have them all be 15, 20 minutes long.
No, don't.
Have a few be 5 minutes long. Have a few be 10. Have your main event be 20. There. There, but it's too damn long. It's too much for you to expect fans to sit through. It's ridiculous. All right, so next up, the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos and New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, where we saw midget pancakes.
You mean short stacks?
Short stacks. Credit to our friend Loopy.
Loopy, you did that.
Who I don't know if it's been called that since, but Loopy was the first to deem them short stacks, which was hilarious.
Poor guy.
No, that was my favorite moment. You're saying poor guy to the short stack that twisted his ankle after doing the worm, which to me was the best part of WrestleMania.
That's why I'm saying poor guy, because we're laughing at his.
I want to go back and watch that now. Go ahead.
So he's still going with the theme with the New Day.
Oh God.
Raising his hands, and yet he's trying to
he was hobbling off. It was hilarious.
So Mike was just
Yes, I was in tears, man.
He was in tears. He loved it.
But
it was awesome.
Can I just say something real quick on a related note about New Day? The pancake thing. Does anyone enjoy the pancake thing? Because I'm not feeling the pancake gimmick. I think it started as a reference to Carmella having a pancake butt, right? I could be wrong. I just don't think it's over. It's really, it's dumb and it's just corny and I just want them to stop. I want them to stop.
Hey, kids love them, man.
No, I want them to stop. Just please,
Stop with the pancake.
please stop. All right, so moving on. Sorry about that. Okay, so what was that? So, oh yeah, the Bludgeon Brothers.
New SmackDown Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, so we talk about. We'll get into it much later about the shakeup they're gonna have, which of course will be big news next week.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna last 2 days.
2 days. Oh my God.
Which of course we've said before. We don't like because we prefer the draft. We think it's a lot more exciting to have a draft. They kind of ruined it when they drafted John Cena twice in the same night. I'll never forgive them for that. That was one of the stupidest things they've ever done. The worst part was Michael Cole laughing at us. I was like, why is he laughing? That made no sense why Michael Cole was laughing at us.
I don't know.
Because at the time, he was on SmackDown and Raw.
Yeah.
But he was laughing at all those silly SmackDown fans that thought John Cena was going to be on their show. Why was he laughing? It made no sense. I know it made no sense. It was very frustrating.
John Cena, I think that wasn't that the next match?
And that actually was the next match.
Yeah.
Earlier in the night, we kept checking in on John Cena for some reason to see how he was enjoying the show. I don't know why they kept going back. It actually kind of ruined the women's championship match.
Oh God, especially toward the end.
Yeah, it was. Oh yeah, and then it's like, how enjoy your little moment. I'm gonna take over now.
Yeah, no kidding.
So he comes out, and
he's in his gear. He's ready.
Elias comes out, and he does a little song, and then Cena gets upset when Elias compares the crowd to him. If you notice that's the moment that he went after Elias, which is kind of a funny trigger for him. Yeah. Like, how dare you compare me to them?
I'm better than that.
I don't know. And then of course Undertaker came out, and it was just regular Undertaker. It wasn't American Badass. So him putting away his hat and jacket last year apparently was for no reason.
That's all he needed. And then it comes back.
And then he came back, and it's like, why didn't he come back sooner? This was such a ridiculous setup to such a little thing. And then
it wasn't.
Did they even mention it tonight?
They did for about
I know Cena wasn't there tonight.
30 second, video package. That's it. He showed up, and he squashes John Cena. It was a squash.
And it was one of the worst big boots ever. Yeah.
He didn't even connect or make it look like
kayfabe wise, Cena could have dodged it.
Yes.
You could easily say he was dodging it.
But he squashed him. He was old Undertaker. He did all of his spots, all of his moves.
And it's like I've been saying for weeks now. This was a no-win situation for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not going to make Cena look good. It's not going to make Undertaker look good. It's going to make everybody look bad involved. And and the way they set this up wasn't even that much of a payoff.
Yeah. And Taker didn't say anything.
Yeah, it was
nothing. He was there. He wrestled him, and then he walked away.
2 minutes 45 seconds if you're keeping track.
2 minutes and 45 seconds. That's it. You got more out of Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. So next up, Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. He's back.
That's right.
We think.
Oh, he's back.
We hope. I'm talking about Shane McMahon. No. I'm talking about Daniel Bryan, who we haven't talked much about on this show. We need to do a retrospective on Daniel Bryan one of these days. Because, there was the time of the Ruthless Aggression era. We basically dropped out of watching wrestling. We just had no interest in it. But one of the things that kind of got us back into it was, there were several things. I'm not going to say it was all Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan was a big part of that. He was fun to watch. His matches were good. And I became a Daniel Bryan fan, back when he was the U.S. champ. You know, when they were doing that stupid story with him and the Bellas, and they're trying to make him lose his virginity, which is creepy if you look back on it now because he's married to one. But yeah, I remember when he was jobbing to Sin Cara, he'd put on good matches, and I think that's what the rest of the wrestling fans out there latched onto, is the fact that, you know, Daniel Bryan put on good matches, and then after he turned heel, you learned that he could actually have a little bit of a character, and that's what made him even better after that. So to see him back in the ring is just really cool, and we're really happy to have him back.
Yes. And I'm glad it's not just a one-time thing. Like, he's back.
You gotta wonder what's next, you know?
Oh, are you kidding with this going on?
I don't know. I mean, they pretty much ended the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn story, so.
Well, they did a little bit, but I'll tell you that on the Raw recap.
Okay. So they defeated Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which no one should be surprised. No one should be surprised.
What?
No one should have picked Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens to win.
Story more interesting and maybe SmackDown. If you could actually see like Kevin Owens versus.
No, it's ridiculous. They weren't gonna have Daniel Bryan lose in this return.
Oh, of course not. But I'm saying Shane McMahon could have taken the pin. Still looking strong.
No, they still wouldn't.
Daniel Bryan comes back and saves him, but loses the match, but still leaves strong.
Next up, she's not like most girls. Nia Jax took on Alexa Bliss. We were exhausted by this point. Alexa Bliss was dethroned. I read online somewhere. Someone made a good point. This should have been a squash match.
Yeah, it should have been.
It really should have been. They did not need to try to stretch it out.
No, they didn't. I'm happy for Nia Jax. She's the new Women's Raw champion.
They look. This should have been a squash match, especially considering how long the show is running.
Yeah.
And then in the rematch, they could have a longer match where they do the spot where Nia's legs hurt and Alexa's taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
But congratulations to Nia. She'll be a great champ. I thought Alexa was a great champ. I always admired Alexa because she's so tiny, but she's, she had a lot of fight in her.
She did.
Plus she's the prettiest girl in wrestling, man. At least in my opinion. I still stand by that, even though Peyton Royce is beautiful. Yes. And who was the other one? The blonde one in Absolution.
Mandy Rose.
Yeah. Oh gosh, she's gorgeous too. Almost as hot as Paige. No, I'm just kidding. Forever. No, Paige just looks ridiculous with that clown makeup she's got on. Somebody needs to help her. She needs help. But we knew that before. Next up, AJ Styles took on our guest tonight, Shinsuke Nakamura, which I told you he wasn't going to win. No offense, Shinsuke.
He's not a believer.
No, I explained it last week how.
Makes sense what you said.
Yeah, they weren't gonna put the company on his shoulders. Sorry. This was just, I couldn't get into this match as much as I wanted to because it was just, by that point we had been there for 6 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
It just, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to be honest, I saw their other matches. This was their rematch from Wrestle Kingdom, I think in 2010. And yes, I understand they were younger then, but they had more of a, higher spots. They could get away with a lot more in New Japan. But we were hoping for something of a spark or something like that in this match here. It was mundane. It was just like the SmackDown match.
The Shane match that AJ Styles had with him last year. I don't know if it was just because of the spot in the show.
Yeah.
But it seemed a lot more interesting. It was a lot more fun than this one was.
This one was just
which is a shame.
Main event.
Because AJ is without a doubt the greatest wrestler on the roster.
Yes.
So. So AJ Styles returns. The big story here is Nakamura turned heel, which is I was, as soon as he did, I was
You were happy.
I was skeptical a little bit at first because I was like, I don't know if Shinsuke can be a heel because he's just so charismatic. But then I thought about it, and I thought how this opens us up to a lot of possibilities as far as Nakamura, and the faces he can he can wrestle against. Because he can have a rematch against Styles now as a heel. He can go on to wrestle Seth Rollins. That would be an awesome match. He could go on to wrestle Daniel Bryan, which would be amazing. So there's a lot of potential there in having him turn heel, which I'm okay with. So no offense, Shinsuke, but we have a lot to go through. Moving right along, it was The Bar, who they still call Sheamus and Cesaro, who came out on a ridiculous float.
Oh God,
it was painful. That was
the audience was so not into it. They didn't even know what was going on until the cameras zoomed in on the two inside the bar.
It's funny. It would be like the equivalent if in Dallas they had come out with like a bunch of cowboys and horses. It'd just be embarrassing. But the only reason they did it was so that Braun could flip over the floats.
That's what he did.
Yeah. And his tag team partner for the night was a plant from the crowd, the son of a referee.
The one who refereed the match.
Yeah, Nick. Well, obviously it had to be, right?
Yeah.
And
young boy by the name of Nicholas.
Can I just say something to the marks out there who got upset with my negative comments about this match? They're like, "Why can't you be happy for this kid?" And I was like, "It's a plant." This isn't. I thought it was a wrestler's son. Turned out it was a referee's son, but it was somebody in the business's son.
I would have been a little bit more lenient if it was like Make-A-Wish Foundation kid or something. He wanted to be a champion.
The funny part was Braun tagged him in at one point. What the heck was he? Seriously,
what was he gonna do?
I don't know. But there was Nicholas. Congratulations, Nicholas. He has to have set a record for youngest champion.
You made the Raw tag team titles a joke.
Yeah.
It was a joke now. And I actually agree with you. It's like Kenny Omega fighting with what was a 6-year-old girl?
9-year-old girl, I think. I don't know, really. Because I know you're going to briefly touch on it in the Raw review, what was Strowman's reaction to being stripped of the titles tonight? Did he react? Was he there at all? I didn't see him.
He's there. Yeah, they gave the titles up because due to my partner has schedule conflicts. He can't wrestle.
He has to go to school.
He has to go to school the next day. And then he goes, "Well, where's Nicholas?" "Oh, he's behind me." He turns around and Nicholas is right there, and he goes, "They give the belts back to Kurt Angle." And then he says, "But when Nicholas gets out of school this summer, don't think that we're not coming back for those titles."
Oh God!
And Nicholas, they go up to him and he goes, "Because they're going to get these hands." So,
was there a big womp womp after that?
If I said it in my living room, womp womp. So it was just like, golly, please.
Okay,
so they made it.
That's all I need to know.
But that's all. That's what
an eliminator.
Yes.
So weird, eliminator. Was it a Judas Priest album, Eliminator?
Yes, I thought it was
what's going on here? All right, then mercifully we got to the main event.
Oh God.
Which was Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. A little bit of a shock as far as the outcome, seeing as Brock retained, which I told you was a real possibility, mainly because they want him to beat CM Punk's record.
They do.
The WWE is so petty. They can't stand that CM Punk has the record for longest modern day reign.
And it's really sad too.
Yeah, so they're gonna have Brock. I think, in my estimation, they're gonna have him hold the title until he breaks CM Punk's record, and then he'll pass it on to somebody else. Probably, most likely, Roman. He's only a couple of months away from doing it, something like that.
I think SummerSlam.
Oh, really? I thought it was sooner than that. Roman just got beat up. He kicked out of 5 F5s, I think. Those counted. Then he bladed, and he's allegedly. Here's a story that came out that he got in trouble with Vince backstage for blading, but they always report this story.
What I heard, he wasn't bladed. He actually opened him up with his elbows, and then.
Oh, is that what happened?
Got angry at him because he was at Gorilla, for term of when the monitor was right there before watching the match, and he threw the title at Vince McMahon, saying there. You could pretty much
I think that's all BS. I don't.
Most likely it is, but I'm just getting tired of this. And now they've given him another contract. He's going to be wrestling Roman Reigns once again in the Greatest Royal Rumble. That's going to happen in Saudi Arabia next month in a cage match.
I wonder if they regret naming the show the Greatest Royal Rumble after it's become one of their kind of pay-per-views they're going to do. They're going to
Don't
premiere
care anymore about
because
those titles.
it almost feels like WrestleMania was a setup to the greatest Royal
Yeah,
Rumble,
right?
which is a shame.
Oh, man.
All right, Seth, are you ready? I've got my stopwatch out. We're going to recap tonight's Raw and see if Seth can do it within 3 minutes or less. Are you ready?
Ready, hit it.
All right, starting now.
Monday Night Raw in New Orleans, Monday, April 9th, 2018. Beginning of the show promo is Stephanie McMahon wobbling down to the ring, obviously bruised and busted, forearm sprain from a match from Ronda Rousey last night at WrestleMania. She takes full credit of Ronda Rousey's performance, and she brought in Ronda Rousey, wanted to thank her and congratulate her. They hug it out, then Ronda puts her in another armbar, damaging her forearm even more. Good job, Ronda. As Stephanie McMahon is being catered and helped outside of the ring, backstage, you can hear people saying, na 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 na, hey hey, goodbye, and all that stuff. So then we get a trailer to informing Superstar Shakeup next week. Next segment, Nia Jax walking down to the ring with a new Women's Championship on Raw. She is in tears and she has a big smile on her face. The entire WWE Universe was cheering her name and saying, "You deserve it." And of course, Alexa Bliss is still body shaming Nia. Nia tells her to shut up and tells her that in fact that she does have a tag team partner. And in fact, it is the Raw debuts of Ember Moon from NXT. Ember Moon makes her debut tonight. So it's Ember Moon and Nia Jax. Ember Moon wins the match with a totally clips off the top rope on Alexa Bliss for the pin. Backstage promo. Kurt Angle is talking to someone on the phone and Braun Strowman walks in, giving up the tag team titles because Nicholas has a scheduling conflict. He's still in the 4th grade. But Braun promises the minute that he gets out of school that they'll both be coming back to those titles this summer, and Nicholas says, and they're going to get these hands. Next is another debut of NXT. No Way Jose versus the Jobber and squashes him. Now we see the Bar coming back, talking to Kurt Angle after Braun and Nicholas relinquish the tag team titles. I would say quellish. Yeah. So he's setting up a tag team elimination tournament, and the winners will face the Bar at Saudi Arabia. Back to the commercial, we had the Eliminator match going on between the Balor Club, Gallows and Anderson versus the Revival. No surprise, the Revival wins. After commercial break, we have a segment of Seth Rollins, the new IC champ. Crowd chants that you deserve it, telling the crowd he is a Grand Slam champion now. Seth Rollins is having a great time in the ring, and Finn Balor shows up congratulating him, but also wants to challenge him for the IC title. As of course they shake hands and they agree, but then The Miz shows up saying you don't deserve it, and then there's a rematch for the IC title, which he will get now at Backlash. But since the members of Miztourage and the Miz are in the ring, they challenge Finn Balor and Seth Rollins in a tag team handicap match. And of course, while they're about to go at it, Jeff Hardy makes his return alongside with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor to face the Miz and his Miztourage. So it's going to be set up as a 6-man tag match. The Miz versus and all them. Next we see Sasha Banks versus Mandy Rose with Absolution in Mandy's corner, and surprisingly Bayley in Sasha Banks' corner. But Mandy Rose wins. Impromptu Paige retiring speech. La 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 la, sorry, she's gone. Next segment, Undertaker destroying John Cena's were the highlights. Next segment is We Walk with Elias, and it's a good segment. Of course, it's the first Raw WrestleMania. Afterwards, people are loving it, and as Elias is singing, the return of Bobby Lashley as he squashes Elias. Backstage segment with Kurt Angle, who's now knocking at his door and crawling on their hands and knees, begging for a job, is none other than Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. There's only one spot for the Raw roster, so they have to wrestle each other for it. After commercial break, Rhino and Heath Slater are in the ring challenging any tag team because he's got kids to feed. And of course, who shows up? AOP. You guessed it. Authors of Pain accept the invitation. They squash Heath Slater and Rhino. After commercial break, we get an announcement that Roman Reigns will be going against Brock Lesnar in Saudi Arabia in a steel cage match. Who cares? Roman Reigns enters the ring, still hurt and wounded from last night, and put an impromptu shoot in the middle of Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe returns. Thank the heavens. Samoa Joe talks about how he's going to put Roman Reigns to sleep at Backlash. Second part of the tag team elimination, we see Titus Worldwide versus Woken Hardy and Woken Wyatt. And the Wokens, Hardy and Woken Wyatt, win to face the Revival next week. Next, we have Sami Zayn versus Owens. Winner has a job at Raw. Double count out, so neither opponent gets a job on Raw. Next, finally, we have Team Face versus Team Heel. So it consists of Jeff Hardy, Finn Balor, and the IC champ Seth Rollins versus The Miz and the Miztourage. The winner, Team Face. Jeff Hardy, Finn Balor, and the IC champion on Seth Rollins. All three guys do all their finishers on all the members of Miztourage. No Brock Lesnar, no Paul Heyman, no problem. Good night.
4 minutes and 25 seconds. Boo.
There was too many. There was too many returns.
Seth, you disappointed all your fan.
Oh, what? Who? Me?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, it ain't you.
All right, so we're going to. Man, we're running really late. We're like Seth tonight. We've run really over on time.
Sorry, guys. There was too many returns.
So we're gonna do the tweet spot really quick for those of you who are new to Ringside Review. The tweet spot is basically this: if you have a tweet that we liked from tonight, I even snuck in one from last night because it was so good. We will feature it on our show. And we do encourage you always to follow the people that we feature, as we do not own these tweets. These are tweets that they came up with.
Yes.
Tonight we're going to be listening to the Ringside Review theme song, as they keep blocking our videos because we use trademarked music. So this, at least we can use this music. We're okay. So here you go, the tweet spot. All right, and that's it for the tweet spot. It's a little short tweet spot tonight. Of course, we're running low on time. But today we're going to take a moment where we're going to learn some history because, Seth, let's find out what happened on this day.
On this day, I see clearly. What happened?
Is that all you're going to give me?
That's all. Well, I don't get trademarked.
Okay. Yeah, well, fair enough there, Seth. Let me bring up my notes really quick. All right, this day in wrestling history, you're going to like this, Seth. 101 years ago, I have some history from 101 years ago.
I was 4 years old.
Well, yeah, exactly. Earl Caddick defeats Joe Stetcher in a best 2 out of 3 falls matches. Of course, back in the days where they had best 2 out of 3 falls matches, a lot more common than they are in the past 20, 30 years or so. For the World Heavyweight title, Stetcher actually lost the second fall, but I think they were tied. He refused to wrestle the third fall out of frustration. So there's that. Let's skip ahead to... see, I have such a rush to get this all done. Oh, yes. 40 years ago, Ric Flair defeated Mr. Wrestling to win the U.S. Title. So that's 40 years ago. Ric Flair was winning titles. 1987, Jim Crockett Promotion purchased Mid-South Wrestling, or the UWF. And kind of the building blocks of what would become WCW. Yeah. So a very important moment, nonetheless. In 2001, 17 years ago, of course, this was a couple of weeks. Well, this is the week after WrestleMania X7. Linda tells Vince. Of course, Linda had been in a coma up until WrestleMania X7. She came out of it. As far as story goes, Linda tells Vince she wants a divorce.
Yeah.
That was sort of the big news from that episode. And, of course, the main event was Team Extreme, which, of course, was Lita and the Hardys versus Stone Cold, Triple H, and Stephanie. Let me see what else I got here in my things. Yep. Jim Crockett bought out Bill Watts. Oh, this is one of my favorite stories. 8 years ago, the wrestling promotion Wrestling was it Wrestlelicious? I can't even say Wrestlelicious.
Yes.
Which is hard to believe that it's been this. I thought it was much longer. Wrestlelicious basically went on hiatus. They had teased that they were going to come back in 2011, but they never did. Do you know the history behind Wrestlelicious? Okay.
I've never even heard of him until
So this guy, I don't know his name, he wins the lottery. I don't know if it's the Powerball or whatever. He wins the lottery. And I think like what most of us would do if we won the lottery, he started his own wrestling federation. He actually did it. He did.
Nice.
He lived the dream of a wrestling fan. He won the lotto. Mm-hmm. He opened up his own wrestling federation. But I guess he figured he didn't want to go head to head with Vince or Ring of Honor or TNA. I can only assume he was a fan of Glow, because that's exactly what he tried to do with Wrestlelicious. Was he tried to do another Glow, and it featured what's her Lacey Von Erich.
Yeah,
I think that was the big star, was Lacey Von Erich. This is, I believe, her pre-TNA days. It had to have been pre-TNA. So it featured her and then some other females. They would do comedy skits. It only lasted a few episodes. It was very expensive to make. He put all of his money into this, and he's broke. Or last I heard, he's broke now. Yeah, the show lasted a few episodes. I don't think anybody really cared. It was a terrible idea, but it's one of those funny things. It's just like, what were you thinking? You know?
Yeah. Are they on YouTube? Have you seen any of them?
I have. I'm actually got to check that out. Wrestlelicious.
Wrestlelicious. So am I.
7 years ago, Kurt Angle pled guilty to reckless driving.
Yeah.
You know, he's come a long way since then. Hall of Famer now. So yeah, I just think that only a few years ago he was having the worst day of his life, you know, or around to it. 2 years ago, Sexy Star won the Lucha Underground Championship. It really seems like a lot longer ago than that.
I remember seeing that.
So yeah, that's what happened this day in history. We have a birthday to celebrate.
Whose birthday is it?
I don't know if you've ever heard of this wrestler. NXT wrestler named Bianca Belair. Belair, excuse me. She made her debut last night in the Women's Rumble. I am not familiar with Bianca Belair at all. I thought I've known most of the NXT people, but what I kind of don't like about her is she was born in '89, so she's 10 years younger than me. So I just don't like that. Okay, now I see. I'm just a hater. Now that I see a picture of her, I recognize her. Now. I'm gonna see if I can put this up on. This is not a good picture. She's a God, man, she's got some long hair. African American woman with some of the longest hair. Whether or not it's extensions, I don't know. Wouldn't count on it. But she's got some long ass hair. I'll put up a picture on the website so you people know. So I think as soon as you see her, you'll recognize her. Like, oh, okay, that's yeah. So what a great birthday present for her to make her debut at WrestleMania the night before.
All right, congratulations.
All right. Congratulations to you, Bianca. We'll be cheering for you. Hope to see you sometime soon. All right. Today, Seth.
Yes.
We've almost done it all. By the way, before we get to crown who's made the greatest post-Mania return in history, a couple of things I wanted to touch on. One of them being by Bianca. No, I'm just kidding. Of course. No, that we didn't really go through is, first of all, Paul Ellerling. It's hard for me to say. The manager of the Authors of Pain, who's been their manager for about a year or so now, because they debuted without him, and then he eventually came.
Yeah.
Or did he? I remember when. Did they debut with him?
They did.
I remember their debut. I just didn't think they. Okay, yeah, okay, they did
No,
debut
he's always
against.
been there since day one.
No, since who did they were in a tag match. It was like the NXT Tag Team Championships match, and then Authors of Pain showed up and basically just said we're here, whatever.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so long ago I can't even remember. But on Raw they pretty much said goodbye to him.
Yeah, they did.
It was kind of weird. I was all for it. I was like, all right, Paul's gonna be in the WWE again, and then you could just see Vince go, who wants that guy? Here. Let's write him off. Write him off the show.
I'm off now.
So that was kind of weird and unfortunate.
I was kinda bummed out too. It was like,
Yeah.
oh man, these guys could have been like.
That'd be kind of cool if like Paul Ellerling just
Yeah.
finds another tag team and like manages them, and they have a story. I don't.
We'll find out next week.
Yeah,
when they
it'd be
do
kind of
those-
cool if like not an existing tag team, just find a couple of new guys.
Couple of new guys.
Yeah, a couple of new guys, and then it'd be a really great way for them to build a story around that. So he's trying to take advantage. He's trying to take a revenge on his former, team, but they're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm. And for
No.
fans who don't know who he is, he was the ones who did.
He was the manager, kayfabe, and for the Legion of Doom, Road Warriors. But yeah, it was unfortunate. He deserved better.
He did.
The other story was what was the other story? I was just looking at the. TNA got mentioned
Oh God,
on
they
Raw.
got mentioned
This is the
Bird.
first time I can ever remember Raw mentioning TNA so blatantly. Like they've had hints here and there. Of course, there's been numerous signs.
Yeah.
There was that when Caval or what's his name outside of WWE? Caval. I'm drawing a blank now, but he said something when he was in NXT.
Yeah.
He made the reference to total nonstop action, and Michael Cole had that famous line. He goes, well, he's not going to be here much longer. Low key is what I'm thinking.
Low key. Okay. Yeah.
That's the only other time I can really think that but Kurt Angle blatantly came out and said, that's how not scared of TNA they are now.
Yeah.
TNA is such a joke now.
Oh, it's so.
It's
good.
weird. It's weird. I wonder if it has anything to do with Jeff Jarrett being underneath the WWE umbrella again.
Probably so.
Maybe they're cool with him. Maybe Jeff Jarrett's, they kind of negotiates a little bit of maybe an invasion thing happening with
remember
Jeff.
They've been talking about that for a while. That was
I
a
don't
big
know.
rumor that TNA doesn't, or GFW, whatever it is, invades.
Yeah,
Raw.
it was so interesting how blatant it was. Maybe there's been some seeds planted. It'd be very interesting to see. But yeah, okay. We're gonna go ahead and crown who had the greatest return the night after WrestleMania of all time.
Did it?
Just as a note tonight, I counted at least 5 returns. I'm not including debuts.
Yeah.
Just 5 returns. Samoa Joe returned. Jeff Hardy returned. Bray Wyatt returned. In an actual match. He showed up to WrestleMania, but he didn't actually wrestle. Paul Ellerling returned. And Bobby Lashley returned.
Man, it's so hard to look at him with his eyebrows.
So that, in addition to the debuts of No Way Jose, Authors of Pain, Ember Moon, this was it was like, wow, this changing of the guard. It's going to be interesting to see what happens after this.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked it up. There's only been really about 3 major ones that I can find. Of course, there have been many returns that have been great big returns for WWE, but the night after WrestleMania, it's become sort of more recently a more recent phenomenon. We'll go back to 1998 when X-Pac returned the night after WrestleMania 14, when DX was sort of reorganizing themselves, and it was the return of the 1-2-3 Kid, Sean Waltman, but now it's X-Pac. Last year, the big story was Finn Balor returning. You remember?
Yeah.
The night after WrestleMania. We kind of wanted to see him at WrestleMania, but we waited till the night after. But I think, and I don't think there's much argument to this, the biggest one of all time for a post-Mania return was Brock Lesnar in 2012 when he basically decimated John Cena. That was a great return.
It was. I agree. It was
That was fun one.
Miami, and
You know,
It was the year that John Cena lost to.
yeah, it was the
to Rock.
first Rock Cena.
Yeah,
It was the first of the once in a lifetime.
first in the once upon a time. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And the whole audience was just over. They just couldn't believe
It ranks up there with one of the greatest returns, Mania, not post Mania,
I
whatever.
agree with you on that one.
That's but the greatest return, that is up for another day, a day's debate. But for right now, the greatest return of all time, post Mania, Brock Lesnar. So there
Of course,
you go.
folks, as you know, when we say it, it's canon.
Yes, it is. So there you go. That's all our show for the night. We did it almost on time. We ended. We want to take this moment to thank our special guest, Shinsuke Nakamura. Better luck next year.
But hey, next week could be a whole different. You could be on Raw. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm a little worried when it comes to Shinsuke, to be honest with you. I really hope he has not peaked in the WWE.
Same here.
Because I think that's a realistic thought right now. Is that this may be as big as Shinsuke gets, is winning the Rumble and having a world title match at WrestleMania. I think he might have peaked. The only reason I say that is just because he's getting up there in age.
Yeah, he is.
You know, and not that I want that to happen by any means.
Yeah.
But just there's so many new stars coming up. It's just.
I'd like to see him in Finn.
You know, I think this heel turn's the best thing that's going to happen for him because I think it's going to help develop his character more. Mm-hmm. You know,
more opportunities of wrestling because there's more faces in the WWE.
I gotta say, at least he's not a comedy character like they like to do with like Asian characters.
Yeah. Oh, like
Jimmy Wayne Yang and Kung Fu Naki, which were both great wrestlers, but who just couldn't get a fair shot because it's almost racist the way the Japanese have been treated.
It was.
But anyway, good luck, Shinsuke. Hope we haven't seen the best of you. Hope the best is yet to come. But anyway, you've been watching a Ringside Review, which of course is a presentation of Hot Air, Heart of Texas Air. Go ahead and like us on Facebook. Follow us for more podcast content similar to this. You'll see me later this week on the Michael McBride Show with Michael McBride. You'll see Seth maybe somewhere down the line. Where?
Or you can catch me at my other podcast that I do, Psycho Cinema Spectacular. I just started a new one, and it's a solo project. I talk about things, from the weird and macabre when it comes to filmmaking from the 60s on up to...
Also the weird and the corn on the cob, which is really weird.
It's really weird.
The macabre and the corn on the cob.
Drive-ins, horror films, Grindhouse, you name it. Find it out. So it's at Blog Talk Radio at Totally Driven.
And of course, if you would like your own show on iRadio Waco, we strongly encourage you to visit, like, follow, and send a message to the iRadio Waco Facebook page and tell them I would like my own show because, we want to hear what you have to say. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight's show. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Good night.
Good night.